My name is Sari van Poelje. I'm the director of Intact Academy and of Agile Business Innovation. You can find me online and you can find our website online to participate in our programs. You'll be very, very welcome. If you want to reach me, you can also email me or Zoom me. You can find all the information online. We were talking about development stages in groups, and we were talking about relational development in groups and the imago development and the dangers of staying in crisis at the moment. What I want to talk about now is that important phase from storming to norming. We talked about, the storming phase where people start to challenge the procedures in a group, start to challenge the leadership, kind of the puberty stage where members start to push against the leader, but also against each other, to come to a place where, okay, I accept this is what I will give up to belong to this group, but I want the group to be normed, to negotiate that this is how we're going to work. So I want to talk a little bit about the norm issues that I usually see in groups, and also the techniques I teach people to get through that, to that norming stage. The techniques are based on the work of John Gottman. And for those of you who know it, he's a very, very good couples therapist who developed his own Gottman method. And I use a lot of that because negotiating well means the ability to keep relationship and to focus, be soft on the relationship, but hard on the task. So we'll get to that in a moment. First, the norm issues that I usually see. So I kind of looked at what do I usually people see do, negotiate about in this phase. So norm issues. Well, one of them is decision making. So during the storming phase, usually what comes up is the mix between who has formal power and who has informal power, and people start to fight or have friction about who takes the ultimate decisions. So consensus, majority, who has veto power. Here, of course, what's really important is that the leader sticks to, this is the formal hierarchy, and makes an alliance with, if necessary, the informal hierarchy. But a norm issue is usually around decision-making. Another one is about attendance. Sometimes people are sick, sometimes people leave, sometimes people come to meetings, sometimes they don't. And what's really important is at the storming norming phase that the leader encourages the members to find criteria. When are you allowed to be there? When are you not allowed to be there? How are we going to regulate each other in being present or not? Instead of the leader becoming kind of a parent going, you have to be there. It should be a problem between, or problem and a challenge between the members to say, hey, Tom, if you're not there, we're interdependent. I can't do my work. I'm going to miss you, So attendance is another one of those issues. Assignments. And what I mean by that is what I teach, and this is a little bit of what I want to say afterwards, is I teach teams at this stage contact, communication, consequence management. And this is about consequence management. So during meetings regularly, people say, these are the tasks, and then some people do them and some people don't do them. What do you do if people don't do it? And again, I encourage in this storming norming phase, the leader to push that discussion towards the members. So what are you going to do if Tom doesn't do his task, or Mary, or whoever it is? So that it becomes a co-responsibility. Participation, active participation. Of course, we have rules about not multitasking, at least in my teams. Sometimes I say, if people are answering their emails during meetings, you're doing something wrong. So you should be talking about, what do we need in this group to have active participation? What do we need to talk about? What should we not talk about? you can see people switch on and off during meetings. It should be a task of the leader to watch when people are switching on and off so that they create a kind of, oh, okay, so this is what we should be doing in this meeting and we shouldn't be doing this discussion. Agenda, same thing. Timing, same thing. Promptness, yeah. So one of the promptness is a respect for the time boundaries. So I know this is also a cultural thing sometimes, but wherever I am in the world, I would encourage you to keep the time boundary. So if you want to start at 9 o'clock, start at 9 o'clock, regardless if you're the only person in the room. Because if you don't do that, people won't feel they've missed out. And so you're encouraging people to be too late. I remember one group, we did an experiment. It was a training group where we had people at the doorway. So people who were on time just came in. If you came too late, the doors were closed and you had to have a conversation with the person at the door, kind of a coaching conversation. What happened to you? Why are you late? And I guarantee you that people came on time afterwards. It was an interesting experience. People were talking about their life script actually around time. Time is a very important issue, just like money is. Another thing that comes up during the norming discussions is relationships. So part of that is respectful listening. So I find in a lot of meetings, people are just there to send, but not to listen. And if you don't listen, you can never get to that state where 1 and 1 is more than 2. So if people are there to make their point, really you're wasting time in team meetings. You just as well send, your decision or your little white paper instead of having a meeting. So one of the things that comes up in that storming norming discussion often is this respectful listening point. What does it mean in this group? What does it mean to us? It doesn't mean that people have to shut up passively when someone is speaking, because sometimes, I don't know, people have their facts wrong, for instance. Are you going to respectfully listen to that? How are you going to interrupt each other is then one of the norming issues. When do you interrupt each other? What kind of rules do you have for speaking? Some people speak longer, some people speak louder, some people don't speak. So it's a norming issue, how you deal with that in a group. And it's good to press the members to decide that amongst themselves. Enforcement is another norming issue that often comes up. So the rules of the group, who's going to say, you should be doing that? As a group leader, I tend to make as few rules as possible because my starting point is trust. And also that's one thing. And the other thing is, if you do have rules, you have to enforce them, because if you have rules you don't enforce, they're not worth anything. They're not worth the paper they're written on. So for instance, if you say the rule is being on time, and then people regularly come too late, and if you don't enforce that, okay, next time you're not allowed into the meeting, for instance, or you have to speak to someone at the door before coming in. If you don't enforce a rule, you snooze, you lose. You're undermining your authority. So the question for the leader is, what are the minimum amount of rules you need for team functioning? That's the question for the leader. And the question for the members is, and at the beginning you have to enforce that. And the question for the members is to renegotiate during that storming norming phase if these rules are necessary and how they are going to enforce them. Okay. The last thing that comes up during norming is how will you evaluate the members' performance, but also the team performance. Of course, the leader has something in mind, and that's important. They contracted at the beginning, but in this storming norming phase, maybe other criteria emerge, and it's important to make that explicit. There may be other norm issues, and it would be interesting for you to check and to do a check with each other have we actually gone through these things? And what were our decisions? Make those decisions explicit, and negotiate them if you haven't gone through them yet, so that the pressure is on the group as a whole to co-create their system, their culture, instead of just the leader enforcing something. Let me know how you get on.